Hey guys, welcome to the Lore Reloaded. I am your wondrous host, Lore Reloaded, as discussed. Hope everyone is doing well at this moment. Going to be doing a couple of things. Again, this is a lore in the past. If you've watched this video on demand, you know how it works. I'm going to throw a couple things at you. Hey, this upcoming weekend, May 12th and 13th, I will be at the Nashville Heroes and Villains Nashville Convention Fan Festival. Come say hi. I'll be doing all kinds of giveaways. I'll have Eagle Moss giveaways, Star Trek Online codes, stuff like that. Of course, we can say hi, hang out. Anti-Tracker and I will be doing lunch on Sunday at about 2 o'clock. You'll need to be on my Twitter, twitter.com/Lore Reloaded, to figure out where it is, but it will be at the Music City Convention Center, which is where I think it's happening. Wherever it's happening, that's where it'll be. Of course, as always, I'm going to be talking about a couple of things, throwing a couple of... just a couple things at you, and we'll have a back and forth. This one may not be going on that long, but I kind of wanted to give an update and just talk with you. So right off the bat, the Writer Games helping out this channel. This is something I kind of did want to discuss. Lore Reload is completely fan-funded, and we're getting to where the rubber meets the road, that it has to stand on its own. I'm doing really well. We're able to... continue going forward, but it's because of stuff like this that keeps us going. He says, haven't caught you in a while, so just leaving my tip. Glad you're here, brother. Glad you enjoy it. If it sounds like there's a car in the background, I apologize. That's my computer. I'm still switching stuff over, and it doesn't like that I'm switching stuff over. So let's just get the IRL, that kind of stuff out of the way. I'm not really going to go into too much detail, but to say that I've had a really rough couple of months, if not years. It seems like life is just continually hitting me. Until there's something major to talk about, I'm really not going to go to in-depth. You guys know in the last 6 months, I've lost 2 dogs that have been with me for over 10 years. I lost my parents in the last 5 years. And just this month, I've had some pretty heavy news. But again, I don't want to get into it just yet. If anything comes of it, you guys will know. But that's to say, so have a little bit of patience. I'm still working with stuff. I also have a new editor that I'm trying to get, we're trying to come into sync. I mean, I love it. It's Fancy Teeth. He does an awesome job. But I just have patience with me is what I'm asking, guys. Saying hi to everybody. We got Bird of Prey saying, what's going on, Bird of Prey? Yeah, I need to do this every day. And I tend to... I at least need to do it 2 to 3 times a week, and that's what I want to do in the morning. In the morning, I'll start doing it 3 times a week. ZE Film says YouTube unsubbed you from my channel. What the hell? Send them a tweet and let them know what happened. But I am going to start doing more lore in the past, so people on the other side of the pond can say hello. Don Juan, what's going on? What is this madness? Yesterday caught Anti-Tracker live, and today at Lore Reload. Ed Appleberry, it's your week. It is your week, good sir. Admiral Saval, do you have a normal job other than YouTube? Which would try to indicate that YouTube is not a normal job. Well, I guess it's not a normal job. YouTube is how I make my bread. It's how I keep food on the table. And is going to become very vital in the upcoming few months, from what I understand. So, yeah, this is how I make my bread. I don't have any other job. The Brew Monk's always here. Joe Shaver got unsubbed. Seriously, guys, if you have Twitter, link your channel. Do @TeamYouTube. Say, hey, I was at Team YouTube. I was unsubbed from @Lore Reloaded. My channel's here. When you resubscribe, also make sure you hit that bell notification so that you actually, receive the notifications. Got Alan Hintez in the past. CE Films. CRR, as always, fun. I'll see this live stream as learning for my English finals. Listening to someone speaking English, good enough. Hey, I'm here for you. Though it's Southern English, so I don't know that it's that well done, because I'm from the South. Donald Hudson is loving it. But yeah, so all that to say is there may be... some major stuff coming out. Hopefully not. I'll let you guys know, and we'll go from there. More of this conversation. Lore in the mornings, I honestly am on the fence what I specifically want to discuss or talk about. I'm open to going over what you guys want to. But I was thinking maybe we could more discuss dystopian futures and such, and how sci-fi, specifically like Star Trek, The Expanse, most anything that is what we would consider classical science fiction, has gone down a very dark dystopian road, versus like Marvel, which is high fantasy, which is very, very upbeat and very, quote unquote happy, if you will. Joe Shaver 1104 from Chattanooga. I'm near the Nashville area, my good friend. How big is the age difference between you and Anti-Trekker? We got a couple of decades between us. Visho Dives says, outside the USA, England, we don't care. Bad English is the future universal language. Alan Hitt says, yep, I'm a Tennessee guy. Am I going to portray... DV. Are you going to compare Trek to other sci-fi, like Blade Runner? DV, are you the one that hit me up on Twitter about Blade Runner? I could compare it, but honestly, I was more going to compare like The Expanse and Discovery to the Marvel universe, and how upbeat, happy-go-lucky, very positive we see from Marvel. Even in the latest Infinity Wars, there's a positive to it, a lightness to it, versus Discovery that is very dark, extremely dark for Star Trek, and then The Expanse, which is just infinitely dark, right? But people love those things. People seem to enjoy it. Now, Marvel does a lot better than the others, so are people looking for this positive, upbeat attitude, or do they want more dystopian filler? Or has the different genres now become niched, or what they are, right? I know Star Trek, when it was first created, was supposed to be upbeat, supposed to be a positive outlook. And now look where it's come. I do think, though, in my opinion, that it's reflective of the culture. But again, I'm curious what you guys think and where you want to go with it. Or if you don't want to talk about this at all, we don't. We can talk about whatever you want about. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Greetings and salutations from Kentucky. Probably not far from where I am. The thing about Star Trek is it served well as a lesson learning process on morals and values. Now it's just, can we have as many flawed characters as possible? Well, except for maybe Michael Burnham, who I think has very few flaws, in my opinion. We speak American, not English. Trek, like many other sci-fi shows, says Nathan Norman, are following the same trend that started with BSG. Yeah, I think they missed the mark when it comes to Battlestar Galactica, though. Battlestar Galactica was a piece on the human condition. It was looking at humanity, putting situations to humanity, and seeing how it all bore out. I think Star Trek, and even The Expanse, which I love The Expanse, has somewhat missed that point, if that's what they were going for, right? Saval's right. We only got 8 upvotes and 46 people watching. My audience is being consistent in the way they upvote. Is Picard speaking French and it translated into English, or is he just speaking English? I would say that Picard, I think they're all probably speaking Terran, most likely. If I had to make a guess, sorry, I seen who's calling me, making sure it wasn't my kids. I think there's probably Terran or United Earth. I doubt any language is divergent for them anymore. I think it's a novelty to know different languages. And we kind of see that in, I think it was either the first or second episode of The Next Generation, where Picard sends a message in French to another vessel. And they go out of his way to send it in French, which tells you that there's probably some kind of common standard in there. They're all speaking Esperanto. It comes back in the future. It's true. They are all speaking Esperanto. Are you going to be giving out Star Trek Online Gamma Pack coded next month? I don't know, Admiral Saval. Am I? Am I going to be giving out codes of that nature at the Nashville convention? I don't know. BSG had very hard choices, and no one was all-time right or wrong. 33 was one of those times where a great evil was done to protect the whole. I would agree with that. You know, an interesting thing about 33, if you haven't watched SF Debris, he does some wonderful breakdowns. He did a breakdown of that episode, 33, and they actually cut out suicide. So they were given how many people were dying and everything like that, and they actually gave out he put out so many deaths due to suicides, and they wouldn't let that show on Battlestar Galactica. The censors or the execs, whoever, thought it was too dark, even though in the miniseries they killed a baby. But saying so many people died to suicides due to lack of sleep, that's too far for an exec. Nate Watson, as always, supporting the channel. This channel couldn't survive without Nate Watson. Southern accents distinctions are more original values, y'all, and its variations. English never got off its A about a standardized second-person plural pronoun. Neither trait should be looked down upon. Yeah, if you want to trigger me, quote-unquote trigger me, one of the best ways is to start talking about how horrible and uneducated Southern people are. Or to try to make it look like only the South had a problem with slavery and bigotry even to this day. Because the South gets a lot of hate, and for a long time it was deserved, but now we're all guilty of the same sins. But yeah, I agree. It doesn't matter what my accent is. It should matter what I say. It should be the idea, not the person. Which people unfortunately don't do in this day and age. The universal translator works, except when drama doesn't call for it. That is true. That is true. Star Trek, BSG, Babylon 5 are great shows, but the new writer got very dark. What is your opinion about Star Trek Continues? I haven't watched a lot of Star Trek Continues, if I'm going to be honest. The episodes I have watched, I do enjoy. It's not Trek. It's not classic Trek, I don't think. I don't think they necessarily grab the voice, but I could see it as a Star Trek franchise or series, but not the original series. They didn't mimic that. But it's a good... I like it. It's a good series. Anti-Tracker says, I don't think that Southerners are horrible and uneducated. Just think that you are. Well, you chose to move down here for our schools, man. So that's on you, good sir. That's on you. And I grew up and I was, brought up in these schools, so go down to Huntsville and meet a bunch of rocket scientists, says Joe Shaver. 1104. Okay. Do they have rocket scientists down there? Even in Enterprise, they use English as standard of the United Earth. Well, I mean, to be fair, they're using English because they're talking to English-speaking audiences. And that's the easiest way to do it. It is English what is humanity's most common language. It's possible. But I figure it's more just Terran. And it's probably an amalgamation. Like what they did in Firefly. It's an amalgamation of, English. I could see, if we became a United Earth, ultimately I could see the languages probably becoming some form of English, Russian, Chinese, and Arabic. And a mixture. Like in Firefly, where they use the Sino-American language. And so they'll switch between, it's not Chinese, but they'll switch between the Chinese variant language. Someone's going to get mad if it's not Chinese, the Chinese variant, and English. United Earth language must be English because Zephyrin Cochrane seems surprised that Kirk could speak English. Kirk looked like someone who couldn't speak English? Okay. Trek speaks English. Same reason why B5 did too, because it's easier for a TV show. Right. Mandarin. Yeah. So they spoke Mandarin. And if that's not Chinese, I apologize. I just have never researched that. Yeah. So they're just trying to speak to a specific audience, which is why it is. I mean, if you were to watch the original series in Russia, it'd be in Russian. And then you would make the argument that it's Russian because they're speaking Russian, right? Bird of Prey 5 says, yes, they mention it's English more than one. I don't remember that. Anti-Trekker, if you're here, you can point that out. I mean, I watched the original series. I don't remember that being pointed out, though. Mandarin and Cantonese are both spoken in China. Good. Then it's a part of that language. Lore Reloaded. Jeez, these Johnny Rebs were wearing 10-gallon hats, drinking their mint juleps, shooting their guns in the air. Can't take a joke, can they? Yeah, well, that's what happens when you got Yankees who don't know what they're fighting for and actually revolted when they heard Lincoln talk. There's only one universal language, sign language. That is true. That is true. Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to talk about this, we can talk about languages and stuff. I just, I'm going to be finishing The Expanse very shortly. I've watched a couple more episodes of it. I'm looking forward to how it ends. I'm excited about that. I honestly want to see Mars and the United Nations just slug it out. I think that'd be interesting. Joe Shaver, 1104. Got to go. Keep up the great chats. Thanks for coming, brother. I appreciate it. Okay, but I mean, Anti-Trekker, couldn't that have been... Did they have universal translators in the original series? I think they did. Maybe I'm wrong. But I mean, wouldn't that have been the universal translator? English is what's considered our civilization's level 1 language. Level 1 being a civilization and can control its world. Level 2 controls a star. Level 3 is galactic-wide. Oil, believe we're at about level 0.7. Okay. Don Juan says, I'd rather be a Yankee than a traitor. Hey, that's fine. You'd rather be an oppressor than let someone legitimately leave as the Constitution stated they could. I get it. Right there with you, brother. You would have done well as part of the Borg or the early Klingon Empire, Don Juan. The British. During the American War of Independence, you were a big British fan, I would assume. Greetings, Lore, says NWO's initials Emerction. Well, greetings to you, good sir. The UT was a thing Spock carried in the Cochrane episode. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I watched the original series, but when it comes to that, I can't get into it. Don Juan! My buddy trying to start a fight with me, trying to trigger me, even though there were northern slave states, and it wasn't about that when it began. It only started doing that because Lincoln needed to win an election. But that's okay. Whatever, man. If you can't beat one point, try to fight another one. I get there. I'm with you. I know where you're coming from, Don Juan. Wait, what? I only heard Texas could leave. That's true, Daniel Ramirez. I stand corrected. Only In fact, it's written into the Constitution. Before Texas even came into it, it was written in the Constitution. If we ever have Texas become a state, only Texas can leave. Absolutely true. Don Juan, Texas can leave once we drain the oil. Oh, man. It's funny because it's true. Why is the MCRN in this thumbnail? Because I wanted to talk about it. You guys aren't letting me talk about it. We got Nate Watson, who $50. It is always appreciated. Thank you so much. As I said, it's stuff like this that keeps the channel running. I am having some stuff come up, and so this channel has always, the Lore Reloaded is always been important to keeping food on the table, but it's going to be even more so in the future, so thank you so much. Star Trek never lost optimism, just shifted. The original series, Discovery, and TNG were often dark with modern social issues, but optimistic. Voyager and DS9 was about survival and recovery when conditions sucked. Enterprise was exploration and maturing. Trek has always been dark but optimistic. I would disagree with that on Discovery. Discovery took it so dark that it didn't recognize... I couldn't recognize it as Star Trek. There's dark and then there's unreasonable. I think that... I don't think there's optimism in Star Trek Discovery. And I think that the social issues they bring up, they don't bring them up because they want to fix them. They bring them up because they want to push an agenda in your face. Any other Star Trek, in my opinion, Voyager, Enterprise, Deep Space Nine, The Next Generation, the original series, they would push agendas in your face, but I really felt like they wanted to make an argument. There were some times they didn't. They did some things that wasn't for argument's sake, but just to win, just to make you look bad. Who Watches the Watchers? The original series had some stuff. Voyager. Deep Space Nine didn't do it as bad, but Enterprise with the whole evolution thing. I just don't see that in Discovery. I don't. I wish I did. I wish I could see that optimism. Bird of Prey 5. $5 for 5 off-the-cuff reasons. Jake Sisko is better than Wesley Crusher. That is true, unless you believe otherwise. No, Jake, never been a huge fan of Jake Sisko, but he is better than Wesley Crusher. I actually like Jake Sisko, the actor. I think he's pretty cool. I just never saw a reason for the character, if that made any sense. Anti-Tracker, stop giving lore money. Save it for the Anti-Tracker. Man, that doesn't seem like it's self-serving there at all. At all. Anti-Tracker actually does... if you guys haven't checked him out, definitely go and subscribe to him. I usually don't point out to subscribe to him because we share such a large base. He is starting to do daily streams, which is pretty cool. And he talks like this, talks about almost anything you guys want to. We give each other a hard time all the time. I'll call him. You'll get me calling him sometimes. Nathan Norman, can we talk on how the Klingon and Cardassian's uniform and how it's most practical type of military uniform for their type of combat that is mainly close to mid-range? I don't understand that sentence, Nathan. Are you talking about the uniforms that they wear or how they fight? Cardassians aren't really close range, in my opinion. Klingons definitively are. They enjoy getting in someone's face, partly from a stance of honor. I honestly think, and I don't know that they did this on purpose. By the way, Dukala, thanks for the Europe-friendly streams. I'm trying, man. I want to do, or chick or person. I want to do at least 3, and I'm trying to work that. I'm trying to work that towards that. What was I talking about? The Klingons. Will fight close range, I think, and again, I don't know that this was done on purpose, but the Klingons always were in a resource-starved part of the galaxy. That's just been written in. Now, it may have been retconned in. I don't remember that being a huge issue in the original series, but definitively TNG and on, they've always discussed, and in Enterprise, they always discussed how resource-starved they were, which means that they couldn't do a lot of the creature comforts or anything like that. They would constantly make it for war and expansion. And because of such resource-starved areas, they couldn't really afford to do phasers or this advanced technology. They would use swords and stuff. And I think that it shows a good way of how the environment really pushed the culture. Especially when you consider the Herc and everything the Herc did and how they had to overthrow the Herc. And they were massively outmatched in technology. Pork helping out, take this anti-tracker. Yeah, you take that anti-tracker. You know what? You shouldn't take that, though. You shouldn't take that from Pork. Give me $50 anti-tracker to overshow Pork. Do it. Don't think about it. And Pork, don't let him do that. Give him $65 back. You guys shouldn't let each other one-up each other. Logic. Let's see. I thought the Cardassians were resource-deprived and the Klingons had an average amount of resources. No, both were actually pretty resource-deprived. Now, the real hit the Klingons took was during Undiscovered Country. Not Undiscovered Country. Was it Undiscovered Country? Where the moon was destroyed and it basically was going to destroy Kronos. So, you know, I mean, it's an interesting dichotomy, I think. How's the MCRN a dystopia? Well, dystopian governments, generally we think of maybe like Warhammer 40k. It doesn't have to be that far. I do think that the MCRN themselves may not be dystopian, even though they're having trouble with their terraforming and everything. I do think that the Expanse is a dystopian world, which is where I was trying to go. Trexpertise did a history of the Klingons. Okay. Nathan Norman, I meant both the Cardassians are mid-ranged and the Klingons close, and their uniform reflects that. Yeah, I'd agree. Klingons padded and armored, and the Cardassians being more gun-happy. I agree. We can discuss those conversations. Again, I think the way they were written, their culture is really pushed by the amount of resources they have and their background, which was done really well. I don't know if it was fleshed out retroactively or if they started that way, but it was done really well, in my opinion. Yeah, remember Praxis blew up in Star Trek IV, The Undiscovered Country? It did, in fact. I never saw how the destruction of Praxis made much sense. It's just one moon in an entire empire. Yeah, that does have a because plot type thing. I mean, they do explain it, that Praxis was the main resource for the Klingon Empire, and that everything was pushed towards a military and not towards like the infrastructure. And so when your major mine that supplies 30 to 40% or whatever it does goes out, and you have no infrastructure to support that hit, then it can be a really bad day. When you are fighting the likes of the Federation, armor means nothing. It's just tradition at this point. Well, I mean, armor historically meant nothing in Trek for the most part. If you remember, in the original series, especially the movies, the Starfleet officers wore armor. And it was basically just leather or pleather that they were wearing. I think that was it wasn't Undiscovered Country. It was the one where they went to get Spock with the Genesis planet and everything. They had on just they had on leather, which you know is just going to do awesome if you're getting attacked. And these just crazy hats. I'm glad they got rid of the hats. Let's see. At Lore Reloaded, true. I suppose it's the Belters that are dystopian, seeing as how Star Trek shows a rich and enchanting future, but with the Expanse it shows that without superluminal drives, you are screwed. Yeah, so I think it's pretty dystopian across the map on the Expanse, just in different ways. The United Nations have it really well off. We tell that, we can see that. The Earthers, they really have all the luck in this. Mars is pretty sophisticated. They have better tech, but they're still trying to create oceans. They're still trying to create biomes and things, and they haven't gotten there, and they're constantly having to stop that and step back because of what the United Nations is doing to them, and it's causing unrest. And then the Belters are, of course, yeah, they're just screwed 6 ways from Friday, which is why you definitely see the OPA making the strides they are. When they're treated that way, when they're treated so horrifically, it is really reflective of how dissent and terrorism can thrive. Sinbad Naver, hey Laura, I'm not at school today since I haven't slept at all last night. Well, I hope you get better, man. You need to be sleeping. Why are you here? Go rest, my brother. Nate Watson, helping out the channel. The Klingons were imperialists for supply chain reasons. The Federation grew more politically. Were the Klingons NATO and the Federation the USSR? It's often described the other way around. The Klingons were imperialists for supply chain reasons. The Federation grew more politically. I don't know. I'd have to think on that. I never really considered Klingons being NATO and the Federation the USSR. Especially when you have the resources and the gains that the Federation has. Well, so I'm just going to go ahead and be completely honest with you guys. As you know, I live in the United States, and a lot of, especially when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, a lot of it was very nationalistic. The Cold War, I would say, had a very one world or one-sided slant to it. So for me to answer that question effectively, I need to do a little more research in it, because my first response to that is that it's the other way around, that the Federation is NATO and that the Klingons were the USSR, especially since my understanding of the resources really does lean towards the Federation versus Russia. But I mean, that could be me looking at it different. I tell you what, Nate Watson, do me a favor. Send an email to james@lorereloaded.com. Ask that question again if you could, and if you can't, let me know and I'll put it somewhere. I'll do a video on it. I'd want to talk to, sincerely, I'd actually want to talk to Anti-Trekker about it and get his opinions, because he would know a little bit more on that, I think, than me. And that's me being honest, man. I could sit here and try to BS it, but I always try to just be upfront with you guys. Hi all, got a question. Why did they change the Trill and Trek? Because they needed the Trill to look a little bit more attractive, especially when you have the actress playing the Trill. The one thing that Star Trek will do, for all that it says, for all of its, we're all equal, we all believe in each other, we all, we've moved past what people look like, we've moved past money and all that other BS. When it comes to selling the show, they're all about using the female form to attract people to watch it. And you can argue whether that's good or bad, but that's the way it is, and that's why they changed. Fatman50 says, I'm atheist, but I'm a capitalist. I didn't know that those things were generally a different dichotomy. So I didn't know that those things were generally different from each other, that you couldn't be one without the other, or that it was weird. Bird of Prey, I'm only 3 episodes into The Expanse. Do Mormons play a major role later in the show and season? Spoilers in 3... Not major spoilers, but just about the Mormons. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. I would say that the Mormons, as far as I've gotten, their existence is more of like a, I don't want to say MacGuffin, but they're just there so that the plot can move forward and so that they can be picked on to a degree. Now, when I say picked on, I don't mean like the next generation picked on, attacking religion. Just, you could insert Mormons for any group and then just say this happened to that group. And every interaction with the Mormons has been somewhat positive. The Mormon characters have been somewhat positive. But I'm not completely done, so I don't know. It could go one way or the other. I would say they get screwed up. They get screwed a lot. The Federation versus the Klingon in TOS was based on the Cold War, so it's more as if the Feds are the USA and the Klingons are USSR. That I do see they were going that way. I do think that there was some subtle attacks on the U.S. And U.S. policy, especially militaristic U.S. policy. But I think that's can be accurate. If Romulan vessels could take on Starfleet ships with arguably equal chance of success, and the fact that the Klingon vessels were outmatched to Starfleet, why didn't the Romulans take over the Klingons? So what I'm going to say, this sometimes makes people somewhat irritated, and I'm not completely sure why, but the Romulans don't necessarily like getting into wars. They don't like fighting wars. They generally like staying in the background and creating issues and creating deceit and causing people to fight each other. Open warfare is not something Romulans ever really try to do. It's very rare. They're very big, they're very bolster, they have a lot of teeth, and they're willing to go forward if they have to, but generally they don't want to fight. So even if they have an advantage, it's not necessarily something they'd want to do. Even with an advantage over the Klingons, that's still a prolonged war. You also have the Federation, which is a wild card. You never know what Starfleet's going to do. It's just not worth the risk. Nate Watson up in the house. I think Mormons will be planet terraformers in the future. They tried to make Utah habitable and made a decent attempt to very limited resources. I could see that. I'm not against. It's not unrealistic that you have the Mormon faith being so large as what we see in The Expanse. I tend to believe, though, that what ultimately will happen is that once we expand to the stars, if we do, Christianity will probably become even more homogenized in order to spread the faith a lot farther. And I think we'll see a more homogenized and more cohesive religion in that. That's assuming that Christianity moves past that. I could see Islam easily overriding Christianity in a move to expand into the stars. It doesn't make one better, one worse. It just means that that Islam, because of how fast it's growing, I could see them specifically. Old Master, you gone, bud. You gone. Let's see. Put user in timeout. Bye, old Fire Master, buddy. Goodbye, good sir. From what I've read about Mormons, I believe other planets are part of their afterlife lore. That's my understanding too. I don't know. I don't want to get into religion all that much. My understanding of Mormons is that you have a chance to become a god and have planets of your own. I think. Old Fire Master, wait, did you actually? Yeah, I put you in timeout, Old Fire Master. It's just everybody can still see your comments, and you're not restricted at all. But yeah, I seriously, for serials. I think Klingon religion equal Islam. At Anti-Tracker, at Lore Reloaded. I'd need more on that before I could comment. It doesn't look like that to me. But I don't know where you get that. But I mean, we can discuss it if you can bring it back. Romulans cannot move against the Klingons without the Federation getting in as well, and even if the Federation didn't join, it'd be in a position to take either power after the war. Yeah, we're talking about the original series Starfleet, so there's no alliance between the two. I just think they'd be a wild card. I can't see Klingon religion equal Islam since Islam is a peaceful religion. Okay. Where was it? Klingon being Muslim, says Anti-Tracker, could be an interesting discussion. I guess. I mean, Anti-Tracker, if you want to jump on sometime, we could discuss it. My channel or yours. I don't care. I'm not going to be able to be on tonight, Anti-Tracker, I don't think, unfortunately. But if I am, I will. You thinking of the Church of Scientology. You're thinking of the Church of Scientology at Lore Reloaded. Okay. The Mormons just want to build a world where there is no sin nor heresy. It would have been a religious colony. Sure. I mean, what Christian doesn't want to build an area that has no sin? Or attempt to? Delete what? There's a spoiler where? Who am I deleting? Han Solo, you can... Well, first off, Han Solo, you can delete your own. But I'll delete it for you. Klingon religion is at best like Judaism, if only because neither of them make an effort to convert other people. Yeah, but the Jews aren't really big on killing people, at least not anymore. So I don't think... I don't know, in history, every civilization tried to kill another civilization. But right now, they're not really big on killing other people, to my knowledge. So that might fall through. If we didn't sin, what did Jesus die for? I don't know. You should ask Anti-Tracker when he goes on tonight. That's what you should definitely do. I believe in the Holy Church of Sheev Palpatine. Well, that's scary. Sheev Palpatine was not the best guy. The Klingons killed their gods. They were more trouble than they were worth. You know, Bird of Prey, I triggered someone. Who did I trigger? Yeah, I remember that line. Some question if that was Herc, the Herc that they killed, or the forefather. There's an interesting conversation behind that. NWO's intro, when are you going to play Star Trek Online again? I play Star Trek Online Tuesday nights at twitch.tv/Lore Reloaded. I try to stick to that. There may be something that comes up, but generally I'll be there. Old Fire Master is usually there, and a couple of people. 11 p.m. EST. Klingon... Oh, I'm not going to be on at 10 o'clock, Anti-Tracker. I will not be on with you, brother. Klingons are polytheists akin to a post-Ragnarok version of the folk Norse religion. They're also inconsistent in what they believe. Klingon struck me more akin to the Spartans. Okay. At Lore Reloaded, the Cardassian Union could be a bigger power than the Romulans had they had the Klingons on their side and the Federation stayed neutral. I have a theory that the Romulans are a paper tiger. I would agree that they're a paper tiger, I think. I think their ships... I think that whether it was Starfleet or the Klingons, regardless of era, except maybe post the destruction of Romulus, well, even then, I think anytime you go to war with the Romulans, it's a really bad day for you. I don't think that they would... I don't think that they would win any war, to be honest. Not without some massive negative things happening to the other side. What modern religions are even mentioned in Star Trek? In Enterprise, I believe they did have some Christian references. In the original series, religion was brought up, and they even had a cathedral, not a cathedral, but they had a place where you could worship and things like that. Specific religions, I'm not sure. I know in TNG, DS9, Voyager, they specifically went out of their way to point out how religion was dead and Terrans didn't believe in religion. And in fact, in TNG and DS9, there was a lot of heavy inference that most of Starfleet was not religious. They kind of went out of their way for that one. Anti-Tracker. In the original series, a crew member was Catholic. Well, there you go. Hey, Laura, you should check out Star Trek fan fiction story Sins of the Father. It's really good, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. YouTube won't let me say the website it's on. Well, that's worrisome that it won't let you say the website it's on. It's called Sins of the Father. Well, let me write that down. Control-C. Star Trek Sins of the Father. Looks like that was an episode. I'll look for it. I don't know if you're talking about Den of Geek or where. But if you're not, just send me an email at james@lorereloaded.com and I'll check it out. The slushy machine on the Acura is busted again. Well, they need to fix... Yeah, they never can fix that. That's what I hate about Federation tech. When it comes to things that used to be capitalistic, they always make it look bad. So the slushy machine never works. Anytime you have the holographic projections of a capitalistic nation, it's always horrible. They just never let capitalism reign. B5 did religion. I like the way B5 did religion. The interesting thing, I haven't watched all of B5 or even most of B5, but I do remember an episode where you had, I don't know if it was a priest or a pastor, but he thought that there was, I don't know if he thought it was a demon or it was hell. This was a while back, or an angel or something, and they go down to look at what's going on because he thinks it's some kind of angel, the angel of death or Satan or something. Ultimately, they figure out it was an alien of some sort, and they have a discussion past that. And the priest, I think he gave a really good counter that. He said, you're right. This wasn't something that was in the religion. This wasn't something that I thought it was. But I still have faith, because that's what faith is, and this doesn't disprove anything. It just meant that I was wrong. It was interesting. At Lore Reloaded, you should check out The Open Door on Space Shuttles. It's a good Enterprise fan fiction that would have been a better Season 1 than what we got. Okay, I'll try to check it out. One of the few TNG references to TN and Christianity was during Picard's Nexus experience, which was a Victorian Christmas. There was a lot more references to religion than that, in my opinion. Especially Who Watches the Watcher, where they talk about how horrific religion is. Picard is a proud secularist, and he goes out of his way to demonize religion multiple times. And again, you even have Sisko talking about how he is... how he doesn't believe in gods, and how Terrans don't believe in gods, and how Starfleet has moved past all this stuff. And it's unfortunate, in my opinion. I don't think you change anyone's minds. That's one of the things I think they pushed not in Discovery that was unfortunate. Even if you had an agenda, even if you wanted to say, hey, I don't think religion's good and people shouldn't be religious, I think that you can present it in a way that at least causes people to think. Are the Bajorans supposed to be Jews and the Cardassians Nazis? No. Trek was never specifically anti-religion per se. It was definitely secular. It was never anti-religion. Never. Who watches the Watchers? Picard religion quote. Nate Watson, we know a decent amount about Vulcan religion, but what do we know about the Romulan religion? So interestingly enough, Vulcan religion was pretty big in the original series, and you still see it in not in TNG, in Deep Space Nine. And so and in Voyager. Vulcans kept some of their religion. I think they are more secularist in TNG and on. When it comes to Romulus religion, when it comes to Romulan religion, you know, I don't know. There isn't a ton because they haven't broken them out. I don't know. I have to think about that. We do know that the Romulans were religious. They do have artifacts based on religion, as did the Vulcans. Because they're a passionate people, I wouldn't be surprised if they were a monotheistic people, honestly, because I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Give me a quick second. I'm just looking up something real quick. It'll just take me one brief moment. And while I'm doing that, we can still talk. At Lore Reloaded, when you find out what Ambassador Kosh is, you'll really like how B5 handles religion. Well, then it sounds like I'll really like what it is. Oh, I can't find it. Anti-Trekker, if you're still listening, if you could give it to me. In Who Watches the Watchers, Picard specifically goes out of his way when mentioned about religion that he will not set people back hundreds or thousands of years. That Terrans and Starfleet has moved past the archaic needs of religion. That religion, he has such disdain and hate of religion. Anti-Trekker has a good episode, a good video on it, in fact. So if there is one thing that is definitive, go to Who Watches the Watchers. Starting with the Next Generation and moving forward, they are definitively against religion. That is objectively true. Tonight I'll be playing KDF. Should I be playing? Hopefully I will be. Whoever mentioned the DS9 book, Sins of the Father, do you mean Original Sin, which was Cisco on a year-long mission? Lore, where can I find your email? It's james@lorereloaded.com. That's my email. Lore Reloaded, isn't the Romulan religion an offshoot of the Vulcan religion? It would be, yes. It indeed is. Would have to be. I mean, they would move in their own way, but it would be an offshoot of it for sure. Anti-Trekker, Picard refers to religion as destructive. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, hold on. I know it. Let's do this. Let's do this. You ready? Who Watches the Watchers? Script. Boom. Lori, what about all of these DS9 episodes where the faith of the Bajorans was portrayed as a strength? So the question is how Starfleet and how Terrans treat religion. That was the discussion. Now, I think that Deep Space Nine did it a lot better, but in a lot of instances, the Bajorans' faith, the Bajorans' belief, was put into a negative light. Nexus 8462 has been banned. No, you haven't. But I do think that they eventually come around. In fact, when Cisco becomes religious, when he stops being an atheist and starts believing in religion, he forsakes his family to a degree. Not to a degree. He forsakes his family. So it gives a positive and a negative. And there's a lot of times when it's made to look bad, but I think Deep Space Nine turned it around and gave some positives to religion. I really do. So here we go. So Picard is having a conversation with Baron in Who Watches the Watchers. During this conversation, Baron points out that, hey, Picard, you could look like a god. You could try to guide them, because they stopped being religious. They became religious again due to something that one of the crew of the Enterprise did. And so Baron is now saying, hey, Picard, you need to now guide this. You need to put them on the straight and narrow so they don't do Inquisition, so they don't kill people, and stuff like that. Picard, so Baron has said this. He said, hey, go down there, steer this religion towards something good. So Picard's answer, he says, horrifying. Dr. Baron, your report describes how rational these people are. Millennia ago, they abandoned their belief in the supernatural. Now you are asking me to sabotage that achievement. They abandoned their belief in the supernatural, which is an achievement. Religion and the supernatural, a belief in that is bad. Abandoning that is an achievement. It is good. It is a positive. Continuing on. Now you are asking me to sabotage that achievement, to send them back into the dark ages of superstition and ignorance and fear. Talk to you later, Alan Hintages. To be religious, to be superstitious, is to be in the dark ages of superstition, is to be ignorant, is to be fearful. So let's continue on. Now you are asking me to sabotage the achievement, to send them back into the dark ages of superstition, ignorance, and fear. No, we will find some way to undo the damage we've caused. Bringing someone into superstition, bringing someone into religion causes damage. Number one, tell me about the group's leader, and then they continue on from that. Richard Hawkins, because it makes a lot of sense for an archaeologist to hate superstition. That's fine, Richard. It's still... stop giving spoilers if you're being asked to not give spoilers of all. But, that's fine, but it's reflective of Terrans and Starfleet. Picard, at multiple different points, talks about how Starfleet has moved past religion. Sisko talks about how Terrans have moved past religion. So it's not only Picard that's saying this, it's reflective of the culture Picard is in. Mephiles 78, that's why I think Trek shows both positive and negative. Starfleet is secular, but it still respects the religion of crew members. It shows religion as a weakness and faith as a strength. It doesn't, Mephiles. In TNG, it definitively doesn't. It shows it as a weakness every time. In Deep Space Nine, it is about 60-40 good-bad, more moving towards good. They have some good points. Starfleet is never positive or wants people to have any type of faith, ever. And in fact, if you look at who they fight and the people they fight, those people have religion. Starfleet is fighting the Dominion, who believes they have their own gods. Bajor, which is one of the weakest planets on the face of all of Trek, who has always been walked on, who are a poor people who have multiple times almost started civil war during Deep Space Nine, are religious. Just example after example. The only time that religion was given a fair shake, in my opinion, Voyager generally negatively impacts religion. The only time, in my opinion, it's been fair is part of Deep Space Nine, and that's only when Starfleet's not involved, and the original series. I'm open to the conversation on that, but that's my opinion about it. Honestly, and I don't know... I don't know why... where was I going with that? What did someone say? Yeah, and I don't think they... So the Prime Directive. I don't think they did this on purpose, but when you remove religion, it makes you deify something else, and they deify the Prime Directive. That's one of the things that really gets me upset, and it makes atheists look bad. So, and it's a straw man against atheists. So, or not just atheists, secularists, whatever you want to call yourself. So you have Picard, who is so against religion. Again, Dark Ages, superstition, ignorance, fear. He puts down religion every chance he gets. Then you have Picard talking about how the Prime Directive is sent down by God. I mean, he doesn't say that word exactly, but you have to follow it to the letter. The tenets of the Prime Directive cannot and should not. You should let an entire planet of people die when you have the chance to save them. Just let them all die. Screw it. Because the Prime Directive knows better. That makes a secularist, that makes an atheist look horrible. A common argument we see today from people who believe is that you have a God-sized hole in your heart, and if you don't believe in God, you're going to replace it with something else. That is exactly what Picard has done and is portrayed as. That's what pisses me off about this whole thing. They bash religion, and they make atheists and secularists look bad. That's what frustrates me more than anything else. Nate Watson, regardless of attitude on religion, the first duty of Starfleet is pursuing the truth. Telling Picard to perpetuate a lie of a false god would be unforgivable in his eyes. I don't disagree with that. And in this instance, he's right to not want to do that because obviously he's not a god. But that's not just what he's going into. He's talking about religion overall. He's not talking about this action. He's talking about religion overall. We've seen nothing in Star Trek, and in fact have seen counter evidence to show that he doesn't know. At best, Picard does not know if a god exists. There's evidence that a god may exist to the contrary of that. We have lesser beings that are a lowercase g god, and if they exist, it is possible that a supreme god does exist. We have the Q, we have the prophets, yada yada yada. My issue with people take this wrong, and it's funny. People hear what they want to hear when I get into these rants. It's like, oh, obviously you're an atheist, so that's why you hate it, because it's putting down religion. Or obviously you're a Christian or whatever you think I am, so that's why you don't like it, because it's putting down. No, I just want to see interesting arguments or subtle indications of why. I don't mind Picard being an atheist. That's an interesting conversation. All of Starfleet or all Terrans being an atheist is an interesting conversation on why, and if they're right and if they're not. The Orville, and I was about to bring this up, the Orville's take on it. And I honest to God, I swear, Jimmy, 1985, I was actually about to talk about that. The Orville talks about how the more technologically advanced a species get, the less they believe in God. That's an interesting conversation. And they were talking about how the main baddie still believed. And why. And I just... It frustrates me because it bashes religion without putting up an argument. I love something that makes me think. And it makes atheists look bad doing it, so nobody wins. It's just divisive. It's like Discovery. And I'm sorry, I'll get off my high horse there. Darth Vader, what is a religion but dogmatic views that cannot be violated for fear of heresy? The Federation doesn't worship the Christian God, but instead they worship the Federation's ideals. Anti-Tracker says that's a narrow-minded idea. I would say that... I'd say in this instance, yes. I'd say that a lot of people, or even maybe a majority of people, have dogmatic views that can't be violated because they're fear of heresy, and that the TNG and ON treats the Prime Directive like that. I would agree with that. I think that religion has evolved to a point where it's not, you don't have to be as dogmatic, but that has its own issues. Colonel Green, Khan, Hitler, and Stalin approve of the Prime Directive, and given the amount of genocide the Federation has allowed to happen, they are very pleased. The Kaylas, just money flying through. Dollar bills, y'all. But seriously, thank you so much. I couldn't do it without you guys' support. D. Newton, I'm doing fine. How you doing, buddy? How you doing? Don't worry, Anti-Trekker. My audience doesn't fight, and if they do, I'll just, you know, I'll just ban. I'll just drop the ban hammer. Okay, guys. So, been putting some merch together. I haven't seen it yet. Press 1 in the comments if you guys would like to see the first suggested piece of merch that you'll be able to buy on shirts. If you're interested in that, let me know. I'll share it. I haven't seen it yet, so you can give me your thoughts. So it's a PNG. It's a PNG, so it might not come through that well. This is going to go on a shirt. Let me see. I wanted something simple. So the way they did this was something simple because it's what I had requested. Let me see if I can share it. I don't know that I can. So you'll have that on a shirt. Let me see. Let me do this. Whoops. Da, 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 da. So you have that on a shirt, which I kind of like that. I don't hate it. I have a guy putting this together for me. And I'm going to have a lot more, and I'm going to have a special shirt that's going to be out, going to be given to patrons only, come out very shortly, having to do with the Oberth. I'll eventually sell it, but I want my patrons to get it first. And I'll be giving that one away. They're not going to be searched. And that one. So you'll have Lore Reloaded, and you'll also have one that says Become a Lore Master. I like it. What do you guys think? Let me know. Pork, it'll be done through Teespring, I think is what it's called. I'll do a video on it before, but if they ship out, then yeah. Hey, Lore Master, love your channel. Everything's about it, and I love that we could be brothers. My fiancée, when she saw you, she asked, are you two related? Trip, the trippy one, it would be my honor to be related to you. Just tell her yes. Just tell her you are related. We are, again, I'm having an Oberth one coming out. Can there be one with just a logo? You mean just the avatar? That's already there. I mean, let's see. It's TeePublic. I'm sorry. TeePublic.Lore Reloaded. I'm not ready to come out with it just yet. That's why I haven't said anything about it. We've been working on it. But, oh, and for the next 3 hours, you guys can get it for $14 versus 20. I did not know that. Oh, with just the LR. Yeah, I'll have that done. If you guys want that, I'll have that put on there. I'm not ready to come out yet. That is true. You need a t-shirt with a picture of an Oberth class starship with untapped potential. No, actually, what I'm telling you, and we're going to be ending shortly, but what it's actually talking about was what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have an Oberth class. I'm actually having one drawn so that I own the rights to it, so I can't get popped by CBS. But it's going to have an Oberth, and it's going to have the Oberth like right here. And right here it's going to say, I'm just an Oberth. On the back, the Oberth is going to explode, and it's going to say, nobody loves me. $14, I could buy a whole Oberth with that, indeed. All right, guys. I think that is where we are going to ultimately end this. I want to thank you guys so much for coming. By the way, did I read the last? Just flying through. Yeah, I didn't read the last one. I want to thank you guys so much for coming. I have a lot of fun when we sit here and talk. But as always, I want to tell you guys that don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And I'm going to see you on the next Lore Reloaded.